So I want to share something with you. Right? Every single person has four kinds of fears. Right? A lot of people have different fears, but at the end of the day, if you sum them all together, they will fall in any of these four. Number one, what if I can't work to 60? What does that mean? You get sick. Right? You get sick, you get ill. Number two, what if you don't reach 60? Before the age of 60, you die. Number three, how much is enough to retire? Retirement seems like something that's far off, right? So what happens is most people don't plan for it, and in the end, when the time comes, they don't have enough money. Number four, what kind of foundation can I give to my children in the future? Now, this is specifically more significant to people who have families and children. Because, yes, you've got children, but the question now is, what kind of foundation can I give them so that they can go on to live life and be successful? Now, in any shape or form, people's fears revolve around these four. All right? Now, when I was trying to process this idea, for me it was quite shocking. I want you to think about which particular fear you've thought about yourself. Have you thought about one, two, or all four? Right? When I thought about them, I found it very hard because I was like, oh my God, yes. At some point in time, I thought about all of this. So what now? So when I was trying to process it, I managed to break it down into three pillars of life. Number one, health. Number two, relationships. And number three, health, wealth. Your health, it's self-explanatory. We all have one body, right? Everything that we've got, well, our legs, our hands, our feet, our eyes, right? Very self-explanatory, your health. Number two, relationships. Okay, why are relationships so important? They're important because throughout your entire life, whether you're aware of it or not, you're building relationships with people. Okay? From the moment you were in the stomach of your mother, the people around you who were waiting for you to be born, you already built a relationship with them. And the moment you came out, you built even more. And depending on how old you are right now, say you're 30 years old, you've built 30 years worth of relationships. Number three, wealth. If we were all given the choice, we would all want to make a living doing the things that we want to and love to do. Do you agree? Now those fears, they revolve around these three pillars. And these three pillars are what form your life goals. And it's called the triangle of life. Why? Because in the very, very core, in the center of all three of these are your dreams and your goals. But I want to make this clear. In life, there are a lot of unexpected events. There are a lot of ifs, and it's in the word itself. These three things, health, relationship, and wealth, they're not exempted from the ifs in life. Health, at some point in time, we all get sick. Our health, it gets into a state where it becomes challenging for us, right? Even the healthiest person in the world gets sick at least once in their life. Relationships. What can put a lot of struggle when it comes to our relationships? Death. If something happens to someone, have you ever experienced a friend of yours passing away or know someone who has a friend passing away? It feels horrible. And can you imagine if that person was a part of your family? So can you imagine what it's like if it was you and how your family would feel? Now when it comes to wealth, every second, every minute that you're listening to this and I'm talking, time is ticking. And we're not getting any younger, but we are getting older. On top of this, each and every single one of these things has a financial burden attached to it. And just so I can give you an idea, for health, cancer, an illness that has been there for a very, very long time and is still the number one major disease that plagues our planet. On average, here in the Philippines, it costs 2 million pesos to treat cancer. 2 million. And mind you, this 2 million, this isn't in the hospitals that are considered first class in this country. This is just a regular hospital. But it takes 2 million in order to treat cancer. In case of death, on average, people spend 500,000 pesos to do what? For the funeral costs, for any liabilities that need to be settled, anything related to costs that are incurred after death. On average, 500,000 is spent. Now, let's talk a little bit about your funeral costs, right? If this were to cover your funeral costs, if you've ever been to a memorial, these are the graves that you see on a wall next to each other. Ones that are very, very far off, that people don't even notice. All right? Sometimes these get covered by trees. All right? Those graves at this point in time are 500,000. Now, retirement. On average, people here retire at age 65, and they retire with 3.6 million pesos. That's a lot of money. Yeah, that's a lot of money. However, most people only live up to age 80. So from 65 to 80, that's 15 years. And if you take 3.6 million and divide it by 15 years, every month, you'd only be getting 20,000 pesos. And as someone who's 65 years old, shouldn't you be enjoying your time? Shouldn't you be able to do what it is what you want to do? Do you really think 20,000 pesos is enough to cover your day-to-day, your month-to-month, as someone who's 65? Now, ladies and gentlemen, these figures are figures as of 2018. So one thing is for sure, it's 2020, and these figures have most likely gone up. Now, why am I showing you these figures? Because I want you to think about yourself. Okay, think about yourself and think about every single aspect: health, relationship, and wealth. Because I have a very important question for you at this moment in time. And that question is, what is your number? Financially speaking, if you could have any amount of money, any amount, whatever number you can think of, what is your number? Now, this may be the first time someone asks you, well, what's your number? What's this guy talking about? What do you mean, what is your number? Well, if you could have any amount, any number of money, any amount, what would that be? I want you to think about that for a moment. Now, if you're having a hard time trying to figure out exactly what that number is, let's take an example. All right? Say you want 10 million, right? Or let's say 25 million, right? If somebody asks you, hey, what's your number? You say, oh, 25 million, right? I'm going to help you figure out if 25 million is really the number that you want for yourself, all right? So stay with me here. And I want you to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an exercise. And while I do this exercise, I want you to I want you to do this for yourself. So follow along. If you can get a piece of paper, get a pen, and follow along. All right? So here we go. We're going to use what we showed earlier, the triangle of life. And we're going to use all three aspects of life, health, relationship, and wealth, and I'm gonna use that to help you determine if that 25 million number, that example, is really the number for you. All right. So this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna start with health. Now, earlier I quoted that cancer, like on average, takes 2 million pesos to treat. Now, in the aspect of sickness and illness, now when it comes to a financial amount, if you could have any amount of money that you would allot specifically just for your health, so getting sick, covering hospital expenses, drugs, anything related to health, if you could have any amount of money, what would that amount be? Think about it. What would that amount be? Maybe, let's say, knowing that cancer is around 2 million, and if you know anyone else who's been in the hospital, take all that and be like, so let's say it's safe to have 5 million. 5 million. I want 5 million for myself. In case anything happens to my health, I've got 5 million. Okay, is that clear? Your number could be different from mine. Okay? But I want you to think about exactly how much money you want in case anything happens to your health and you have to cover any costs. Okay, so in this case, I want 5 million. Now my next question is, how much money do I currently have? Now I want you to think about this. Any money that you have set aside specifically for your health or to cover any health costs, if you've got a health fund that you set aside, a bank account with money that's specifically for health emergencies, or if you've got insurance with your company, if you have an HMO for your company, I want you to get those figures, right? To put them together, right? So I've got a health insurance that's around 1.5 million. I don't really have anything set aside for health fund. So company-wise, no, we don't have. So I guess really all I have for my health is health insurance that's 1.5 million. Now again, your number could be different from mine, and that's okay, all right? So whatever it is you have, I want you to write that down. And for those who have zero, who have nothing set aside for your health, that's okay. I want you to put a 0 there because it's going to be important later on, all right? So now we know I want 5 million. In case anything happens to me, I want 5 million pesos just for health and sickness, right? Currently, I have 1.5 million. So I'm still lacking 3.5 million in terms of money to address what I want for sickness and illness. All right, again, I want 5 million. I currently have 1.5 million. So I have a gap of 3.5 million. All right, so we're done with health. Let's talk about in the event of death. All right, if something happens to you, something happens to me, all right, what's that amount of money that I want to leave behind? All right, now this amount of money is going to cover funeral costs, cremation costs if you want to be cremated, if you have any outstanding debts and liabilities that you want to be paid off, if you have a family and you want them to continue living for the next 10 years, how much is that ideal amount of money that you want to leave behind in case you die? So me, let's say if I pass away, if I want to leave a certain amount of money, let's say I want to leave 10 million. If anything happens to me, I want 10 million to be left behind to cover funeral costs, my children's education, any debts and liabilities that I have. So I want 10 million. All right. Now again, this number could be very different for you. All right, but I really want you to think about what that number is for you in case you die. What is that amount of money that you want to leave behind? Okay? Now, once you've got that, I want you to think about what you currently have set aside that specifically addresses the needs in case you pass away. So in case you pass away, do you have a certain emergency fund that you've set aside for your family to use? Do you have life insurance? Do you have anything that would be used specifically in case you pass away? So let me ask myself, what do I have? I've got life insurance. So I've got how many? I've got 5 life insurance policies, and in total they probably each give me a total value of around 5 million. Do I have anything else? Do I have company insurance? No. Do I have an emergency fund set for this? Not really. Do I have like a memorial plan? Not at the moment. So really all I have is this 5 million of insurance. Okay, so that's okay. Now again, this number could be very different for you. But whatever that number is, I want you to write that down. Now again, if it's 0, that's okay. I just want you to write down that number. All right, great. So I want you to follow along with me, okay? So in my case, I want 10 million. In case I pass away, I want to leave behind 10 million. Currently, I have 5 million. So the question is, how much am I lacking? So 10 minus 5, that gives me 5 million. Now for you, it could be different. All right? So just subtract the numbers so that you can get this figure. You can find out how much more you need in order for you to hit that number that you want. All right, great. So we're done with health. We're done with relationships. Now let's talk about wealth. Okay, this is specifically talking about retirement. So when we all get old, how much money do we want to retire with? All right, now before you think about that number, right, before you state any number, I want you to keep in mind that at this point in time, you should be enjoying your life. All right? At this point in time, money should not be a problem anymore because you've been working for such a long time. All right? And again, if there's any amount of money that I want you to think of, in this particular aspect of life, I want you to go crazy because really, that's how it should feel when you're retired. Right? So don't hold back. There is no law that states how much money you should retire with or how much money you can retire with. The sky is the limit. So I'm going to go all crazy on this. So I'm going to say I want to retire with 50 million pesos. By the time I retire, I want 50 million. I feel like I'd be comfortable. I can do whatever it is I want to do. If I have grandchildren, we can go out. We can do whatever it is we want to do. With my children, we can go wherever. We can travel here, there. 50 million for me is a good amount. What's your amount? Again, don't hold back, okay? Okay, so when you have your amount, you know the next question. How much do you have set aside specifically for your retirement? Okay, So retirement usually means anything that you have saved up, any investments that you have. So that includes land, that includes buildings, anything of monetary value, okay, that you can put a number to. So I have, let me give you an example. So in my case, I have around, I've got around $500,000 set aside in the bank. $500,000. Do I have any land? Yes, I've got a condominium that's worth $4 million, and I have land that's worth $2 million. So that puts me at $6.5 million. Do I have anything? Do I have any investments? I have investments that's worth $1 million. Okay, so that sets me around $7 million. Do I have anything else? Oh, really? That's it. So I've got $7 million. All right. Now again, these two numbers can be very different for you, but I really want you to be honest with yourself. Right? How much do you really have set aside? And it doesn't matter, again, if you have nothing. I want you to write down, even if you have zero, okay? And even if that amount is small, okay? I want you to write that down, because any amount is incredibly significant at this point in time, okay? So I just want you to write that down, because you know what we're going to have to do is right now, how much are you lacking? How much more do I need, right? So that I can reach my 50 million retirement goal. So I'm currently missing 43 million pesos. Okay, so again, this number could be very different for you depending on the numbers that you have. So I want you to just take a moment and do the math. Now that you have your gap, this is what we're going to do. All right, so over here on the right side, you can see you've got 3 more spaces. It's 1/2 gap. Now what I want you to do is I want you to add each and every single one. So for example, my want for sickness is 5 million, my want for death is 10M, my want for old age is 50 million. That puts me at 65 million. All right, 65 million. Okay, currently I have 1.5 million for health, 5 million in case I die, and 7 million in case 7 million set aside for my retirement. So that puts me at 13.5 million. All right, okay, now same as before, all we're going to do is we're going to take 65 and we're going to subtract 13.5 million, putting what I'm currently lacking at 51.5 million. So remember my question earlier? Remember my question? What is your number? And we gave an estimate of 25 million. That's actually not true, because your number, or at least my number in this case, is actually 65. Right, what is my current situation? Well, currently I have 13.5 million. And how far am I away from that 65 million number that I want? Well, 51.5 million. Okay? Now, why did we do this? We did this so that you can have a snapshot of financially where you are in life right now. Okay? Now, in a moment, we're going to do something, but I want you to take this moment right now to absorb what you're seeing on your piece of paper. Okay? Because the next step is going to be very, very important for you. Because my question is, now that you know you have this gap, right? Not just here, but in all areas, right? It could be different in your case. Some people, maybe they don't have gaps in one area, all right? But I want you to focus on any areas that you have a gap in, all right? Because this is what you're going to do. I want you to take a look at each one. And now you have a moment, you have this opportunity to decide which area do you want to focus on. Because now that we know where you are, I'm assuming there's something you want to do about this, right? You have a number, you have a goal, you know what you're lacking. I'm assuming there's something you want to do about it, All right. I want you to take a closer look in these 3 areas, and I want you to choose, looking at the gaps, where do you want to focus on? Which area do you want to focus on finding a solution? Because that is what we're going to help you do right now. So take a moment and think about it, which area you'd like to focus on. And once you have that in mind, I want you to write that down. Because before we decide, there is something I want to say to you. Just a piece of advice as your financial advisors, there is something that we'd like you to keep in mind. Out of these 3, there is one that is most important. And if anything happens to this one area, all the other areas are affected. Can you take a guess which area that is? Now, if you answered health, that's correct. Do you agree? If anything happens to your health, all other areas become jeopardized. Yes. If you get sick, you could possibly die. If you get sick, you probably won't even get to retire. All right? So I want you to keep that in mind. Another is, just to help you, you might want to focus on the area that has a smaller gap. So the smaller the gap, the easier it is for us to find a solution. So in this case, it's in the health portion. So just a piece of advice, you don't have to follow it, but just something to keep in mind before you choose. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Where do you want to focus on? And once you have an area that you want to focus on, this is where you're going to have to talk to your financial advisor, because they will be the ones to give you your solution. Right? Now in this case, since I've chosen health area, now I'm going to go to my financial advisor and tell him or her, hey, this is my current situation and I want to do something about it, and I really want to focus on this particular area. What can we do? All right? Now again, before we end this session, I want you to keep this piece of work that we just did, this exercise, I want you to keep it safe, because from time to time, we're going to refer back to this, because our goal is for you to eventually reach your number, right? Our job as financial advisors right now is to help you address each one of your gaps, and hopefully soon get you closer to the number that you want. Now, if you have any other questions, your financial advisor will answer them for you. Any concerns, don't be afraid. Just ask your financial advisor, and they're going to be there willingly to answer any questions. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this helped you in some way realize how you can start taking control of your finances. And that is all. Thank you.